campaigning is all campaigning is a marketing contest of who can be the most popular.
Right.
That's all it is. Which is why we get sometimes good people who win, or we get people winning elections that don't know anything about governing. Because a lot of times the good governing mindsets don't think popularity contests. They think right and wrong, good policy, but they're not really good.
Hi, I'm Micah Clark with American Family Association. This is our second half of our interview with Micah Beckwith, the pastor at Life Community Church in Noblesville. We're going to talk to him about politics a little more in depth than we did last time, with some specific political races I wanted to get his opinion on. So thank you for joining us today. Micah, it's great to have you with us again. I wanted to shift gears a little bit and talk about, I need to say this first. We're a 501c3. We don't endorse candidates. You're not a declared candidate, filed candidate yet. You are declared. But I wanted to get your opinion because you are running for office. But I wanted to talk to you about some of the gubernatorial candidates, and on both Democrat and Republican side. But tell our audience about your announcement.
Yeah, so I am running in Indiana for Indiana's lieutenant governor. It's never really been done before. This is a full-on campaign to the delegates. The delegates are the ones who decide who the lieutenant governor is, the nominee is for the Republicans, and then whoever that nominee is teams up with the governor. Winner of the primary, the gubernatorial winner of the primary, and then we go up against the Democrats in November as a ticket in 2024. And so my job as lieutenant governor, as a candidate for lieutenant governor, is to go to the delegates and convince them why I would be a strong voice, conservative constitutional values, and why you would want as a delegate to have that voice represented in the executive branch. The establishment people, the long time just sort of go along to get along kind of crowd, they don't necessarily like it because it's shaking things up. And they're trying to figure out ways to stop it, but here's the beauty in this. This is what the rules actually allow.
Right.
It's the delegates who get to decide. And so if I convince the delegates, then it's the delegates' choice. And they actually might try to change the rules. I've been hearing that they don't like the fact that the delegates have the voice. They'd rather have it be an anointing and a gift to somebody who does some political favors for you. As a governor candidate, you can say, hey, so-and-so, you've helped me win the primary. I'm going to gift you this office as a reward for helping me. But as a constitutionalist, these offices are not theirs to give away.
Well, the delegates have to approve the rule change on that.
They would, yes, they would. And so it'd be
giving away your power.
Yes, you'd be giving away your power.
And if I remember right, there were about 1,400 to 1,600 delegates?
It varies by year. Last year, or in 2022, we have a convention every 2 years, and I've been a delegate since 16, and I know you've been a delegate. We had 1,808 in 2022. So I think it'll be a little less. It's a percentage of the Secretary of State's race. That's how they calculate it, but I think we'll have a little bit less in 2024, so probably 1,600 to 1,700 delegates.
So with you running for a lieutenant governor position, and traditionally the nominee comes out of the primary in May, and they say, I want candidate X, and the convention usually just signs off. But there have been times, Steve Goldsmith, when he ran, left up the convention, and there was a lot of different candidates who ran. It was a lot of fun as a convention.
It was fun, yeah. And that was 1996. But remember, that wasn't even really a campaign. That was Steve Goldsmith that didn't want to go up against Rex Early, because Rex Early, Goldsmith had just beat Early in the primary. Early and Goldsmith were not friends, but Early had the delegates.
Right, because he'd been the party chair.
Yeah. So Goldsmith was afraid he was going to go to the convention, and Early was going to undermine him and run somebody against his pick, and that would be an embarrassment to Goldsmith. And then Goldsmith would have looked like, he couldn't really rally the support of the party. So he just said politically, being politically astute, he said, I'm just going to leave it up to the delegates. But it wasn't really because he wanted to give the delegates a choice. He just didn't want to be embarrassed by Rex Early. What I'm saying is, I want to give the delegates the choice, and I think it should go this way from here on out. And whether I win or lose, I hope this changes history in Indiana, and that the delegates will pick from here on out, because we've seen an abuse of power in the executive branch. We've seen a lack of conservative values from our governor right now in Indiana, who is a Republican, but he's vetoed the women's sports bill. He shut down churches, left abortion clinics open during the pandemic. He threatened to throw people in jail if they were going to be not caught in public without wearing a mask during the pandemic. He's been really, really soft on parents' rights. He hasn't really stood up for parents' rights. He fought against constitutional carry. I may have already mentioned that one, but and I'm just saying, where is the bold voice within the executive branch? Well, if you had a strong conservative, and the delegates tend to be a lot more on the conservative side, if they would have been allowed to pick somebody, we would have maybe never seen our current governor get away with what he's gotten away with, because you might have had somebody in there just really pushing back. And so that's really why I'm running, and I think I would be a great leader and influencer. I'd love to see the office of lieutenant governor stop being a placeholder office and really being an influential office that then goes out into the state and into communities and really pushes for good change. And actually, one thing I'd love to do as lieutenant governor is, I've already declared that I'm going to do this every week in my in my administration, or during, if God willing I win, is to travel to the schools, every middle school every week, and to speak on American exceptionalism and constitutional history to middle schoolers all around the state. And just using the platform to really influence and push the constitutional conservative agenda down the field. Most lieutenant governors just kind of sit back, do what they're told. It's a placeholder for what it may be stepping in the governor someday or doing something else. And so the current lieutenant governor, Suzanne Crouch, she has done some good things when it comes to agriculture and things like that. I don't want to just throw them all into the same boat, but I think it could really be.
I mean, the LG is a big office. They've got economic development, they've got agriculture, they had the Senate. There's a lot of things the LG does, but a lot of them are internal. But it's not a small office by any means.
No.
But with you running for that, I wanted to ask you about each candidate we have announced here, and be obviously pros and cons. Each have positive and negatives. Let me just start with the Democrat. I think there's only one announced I know of, and that is Jennifer McCormick, who was a Republican when she was Governor Holcomb's pick for Secretary of Education, Superintendent of Public Instruction, before we made that office and appointed one. And she ran the convention. There were a lot of delegates who questioned her voting record because she voted Democrat. And since
we like to call those people rhinos.
Yes, well, now she's running as a Democrat, it seems.
She was a rhino.
So what's your take on her? And she's probably a fairly strong candidate for the Democrat side.
Yeah, I don't know if the Democrats could put up anyone stronger, to be honest with you. I think she's going to have a hard time distancing herself. The left, they hate the Republican Party, right? And so she really was part of the Republicans. You could probably find some good quotes from Jennifer about espousing some aspect of Republican principles or conservative values. And I don't know if the left is necessarily going to like that a whole lot. So she might have a problem, not on the Republican side, she might have a problem, rallying the support of even the far left, Marxists that the Democrat Party has now. And so, but again, to that point, she won as superintendent over education. She was certainly a big corporate school kind of mindset, union, against parental rights. She's shown her true colors when it came to how she's led the Department of Education, to the point where Governor Holcomb got the legislature to actually remove that office from being a constitutionally elected office. And now it's an appointment from the governor. And it was really because of how Jennifer McCormick was doing, moving everything left. So, I think, again, a strong candidate for the Democrats. Do I think she could probably beat any one of these current Republican candidates in the general? No. I think probably right now, the way I see it, is the primary will be that will dictate who wins the...
In a very red state.
Yeah, in a very red state. I mean, we're plus 11 red right now. And so, and then we're going into an election year with Joe Biden on the ballot, who has had a disastrous 4 years. It's going to be very hard in Indiana for Democrats to win in 2024. So
now, of course, there could be another candidate on their side. You never state senator, state rep who runs, or somebody. But for now, that's the one candidate. On the Republican side, you have. We'll just start with the lieutenant governor there, Suzanne Crouch. She may have been the first to announce. I can't remember if she or Braun.
Eric Doden was.
Was he? Oh, okay, we'll get to him too.
Yeah.
Eric's been in this office. So let's start with Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch. Very nice lady. Pretty good lieutenant governor as far as capability. I don't know if she's had a lot of policy differences. What's your take on her chances or on her candidacy?
Well, so I know her personally. She's really, I would consider her a friend as well. I would consider all of them friends, but she's a very sweet lady. She's got a heart the size of of the moon. I mean, really, is just you can tell that she cares genuinely for people.
Right.
I think she's got conservative principles in her core. The question, and this is what I've told her this, and I've as well, is can you surround yourself with good, solid conservative leaders? Because what's happening is I think the establishment and some of the Holcomb people have kind of seen her as kind of maybe the Holcomb next step, right? The moderate, right. And I don't think that's necessarily how Holcomb sees her, but I think some people in the establishment world have seen that, and so they've jumped on with her campaign. And so she's kind of surrounded herself with some not very conservative, not really the faith and family crowd. It's the typical Holcomb jobs, economy, but no faith. We don't talk about faith and family values. We don't touch it with 20-foot pole. So if she can surround herself with good people, I think she'd be a good governor. But that is a very hard thing to do. A big task in politics is to find good people that you can trust, that really have your agenda, your conservative values, if you are conservative, to help drive that down the road. But we'll see. Again, I think she's running a good campaign. I think she's got a chance.
She's got a lot of endorsements.
She's got a lot of endorsements. Now, it's kind of the establishment world. So
one she doesn't have, though, is the governor's endorsement.
That's right.
Which is surprising to a lot of people as your lieutenant governor.
Well, and again, it kind of goes back to what we said earlier about we've said the governor should be allowed to pick his running mate, but it didn't work because he's not willing to endorse her for governor. So obviously that was a bad pick. If the delegates would have picked, maybe there would have been someone that he would have thought was capable of being governor. But he does not necessarily. He does not necessarily think that she's going to be a good governor, but I've also heard that that's because she's stood up to him behind closed doors when it came to why did you veto the women's sports bill that kept biological men out of women's sports. She was not happy about that. I knew that. And so she said something behind closed doors. And there's been some friction and tension, and you could see it even 2020. He took her off his campaign signs. Right. It wasn't Holcomb Crouch.
Right.
It was just Holcomb.
Which is very unusual.
Very unusual. That says a lot right there. So
let's move to another candidate. I can't think of his name, but is that why you think the Secretary of Commerce might run for governor?
Yeah, Brad Chambers.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know him personally. I don't know much about him. I know that Holcomb likes him, and this is probably about all I need to know. And so I think he is that typical economy-only kind of guy. And again, I'm a strong pro economic freedom, the free market, low taxes, all that kind of stuff that Holcomb and the guys like Brad Chambers like to tout. But what they don't realize is you can't build a powerful economic house on a foundation of morally declining principles. And that's faith and family principles are the foundation that hold up the economic house. And so they won't lead on the faith and family platform. I think Brad Chambers, I could be wrong, but my hunch is he will not touch things like abortion, the transgender issue, the parents' rights within schools. He will probably bend the knee to Red for Ed, just kind of like Holcomb has done. And so, again, I don't know that, so please don't do your own research. But that's kind of my hunch from the people I've talked with. So if he gets in the race, I've heard that Holcomb would probably come out and endorse him if Holcomb is so bold to endorse anyone. Right. A lot of times these people, like people in office, will say, hey, I'm going to let the people decide. I'm not going to endorse anyone, but I like so-and-so, but I'm not endorsing them. So, yeah.
Well, the next big name is Senator Mike Braun, U.S. Senator. There's talk that he's tired of Washington, didn't like Washington. He's kind of a take charge type of guy with his own business and things like that. So he's running for governor, which of course opens up his Senate seat. But how's his campaign going? What are you seeing from him?
Well, he's raising money, and I think some of it is his own self-funding. So there's some aspect there. He's got the money to help fund. But
and we are early, and we're talking 9 months away from the election.
If he's not careful, he's going to be Jeb Bush. I think he kind of thinks it's his. I mean, he's got it wrapped up. I like Mike as I think for the most part he's gonna be solid on issues. The question that I would ask with Mike and both Suzanne is, will you guys be conservative fighters? It's not good enough that you're conservative. You got to fight for those values. If you're not willing to get on the field and fight, then your conservative values do us no good. And I want a Ron DeSantis type mentality where when the woke culture comes beating down the governor's door, you got a leader in there that says, no, I'm not going to go along with you just because you're loud and screaming at me. I'm gonna push back on you. And so I wonder with Mike Braun if he's got the kind of the backbone and the courage to really push back on him. And there's been some things that I've heard him say about kind of the green agenda, where I don't necessarily like what I'm hearing, where he's kind of said, we need to go, the government needs to push that down the field a little bit more. I'm like, I'm all for green energy, but let the private sector do. I don't want the government, subsidizing everything and having these windmills that are, going to be useless in 20 years and they're not really making their money because the government has subsidized it. Like, let the private sector will figure it out. Just get the government out of the way.
Right. And
so we'll see he's a business guy, so he's got good business, I think, prowess. But I think he's going to have to work for it, and I hope he doesn't think he can buy it. And that's sometimes you get wealthy people who jump into politics. They think they can just sit back and buy it. And I'm not saying he's not a hard worker. Sometimes you get a little complacent, and he's got name ID now around the state. He's got money. That's usually what you need to win an election. I hope he works for it too. I want to see someone running for governor or any office really, getting out, talking to people, retail politics, shaking hands. Tell me what you think about what's going on. Let me hear your heart. How can government either help you or get out of your way, or what could I do? And so if he starts doing that, I think he'll do well.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying he runs the risk because he has the highest name ID. He's the U.S. Senator. He's probably got the most media coverage. Lieutenant governor doesn't get quite the media coverage the governor does, and certainly not U.S. Senator. So it'd be easy to think that this is,
Oh, it's over. Like he'll say. I think he's going to have to be careful with it. And I actually told him this. I called him before I announced I was going to run for lieutenant governor, and had a good conversation with him. And he's always been very nice to me, and I like Mike as a person. But I did say, hey, some of the things he was saying, it was kind of getting a little like, oh, this is mine for the taking. He didn't say it quite that way, but that was sort of the tone. And I said, Mike, you gotta don't get complacent. I don't want to see you be Jeb Bush, right? Like Jeb Bush, he thought he had the 2016 presidential nomination locked up in 2014, right? 2015, then Donald Trump got in the race, and we all know how that went. So I think you just, in politics, it's never
especially when you're running a race with 5 or 6 candidates.
Yeah.
30% can win it.
That's right.
And so you have to fight for every vote, which is good for the voters.
It's very good for the voters.
So another name that's been in the race for quite a while, and he's been in our office, someone I know as well, is Eric Doden from Fort Wayne. Tell us about his campaign and who he is.
Yeah, I was just with him yesterday. We were up in Lake County at the GOP booth up there. I like Eric a ton. I think he's got just a wonderful heart for the Lord, and he's got a very good business background. His uphill battle is going to be he doesn't have the name ID. Nobody really knows who he is, but he's raising money too. So again, it's about how much media coverage can you buy, and he's got the money to begin to start pumping out
he's
those.
The first one on TV.
That's right. Yep. So I think he's got great ideas when it comes to revitalizing rural Indiana. And I would love, as lieutenant governor, to get out there and champion that message about bringing just great economic prosperity to these rural towns. And he did some great work in Van Wert, Ohio, that really kind of just pumped a lot of juice into that community over there. Private-public, it was a public-private partnership. It wasn't all government. It was certainly rallying the private sector to invest, and I think that's good. But Eric, now let me say a little bit about faith. I don't want to question somebody's heart for the Lord, but the Bible does say you can judge a tree by its fruit, right? Eric and his wife, they wear their faith on their sleeve. He's very outspoken about his love for Jesus and his heart for the Lord, and that goes a long way with me. When it comes to Suzanne and Mike Braun, they're not so much in that world. I mean, I think they would probably say, hey, they are people of faith, and they do believe that there is a God. But you can get a sense when you're talking to somebody, okay, this is a follower of Jesus, and this is just a Christian, right? Like that's two big different things, right? Followers of Jesus are different than just being a Christian. Right. And I think Eric really is a solid follower of Jesus. Yeah. So again, I like him. I think, but his uphill battle is going to be getting out and energizing people to get out to vote for him. And he's a, again, great guy. He's a little bit more calm in his demeanor.
yeah.
So again, being energetic, you're going to have that boost of like get out the vote, get the grassroots knocking doors for you, and so we'll see if we can do that. Yeah.
So the most recent name I know of that's entered is former Attorney General Curtis Hill,
Yeah.
who we know pretty well. What do you say about his race?
Well, Curtis and I are really good friends. We go back probably 4 years. We started doing some speaking engagements the last few years called the God and Country Conference, and so we would talk about the power of bringing biblical truth into the world of politics, the foundations of our republic that is rooted in the Judeo-Christian ethic. And so I'd talk about the faith aspect, the biblical mandate, and he would bring in the political strategy and how to be effective in politics. And so we've done that for a few years now, and I like Curtis a lot. I think he rivals probably Mike Braun and Suzanne Crouch in name ID just by being Curtis. He was the former Attorney General. Again, I said it earlier, I want not just a conservative, I want a conservative fighter. Out of all the candidates we've talked about so far, I know that Curtis would be the strongest fighter. He's proven it. Mm-hmm. He's got the record. He'll stand up against the establishment if the establishment ever tells him to bend the knee. He'll stand up against the woke cancel culture if they ever, on the left, if they tell him to bend the knee. He'll stand up against the Marxists within the Red for Ed movement if they tell him to bend the knee. Like, Curtis is a fighter. He knows how to take the shots, and he's not going to back down. So I think Curtis would be a really phenomenal governor, but the question is, can he raise the money? Mm-hmm. That's the thing. So he's got to raise the money to build a team so he can get the word out, and that's yet to be seen. And I think he's probably a month into his campaign, mm-hmm. and I don't know what his fundraising. I don't think we've seen the fundraising reports, but I think it's if I had to guess, it's probably not easy, yeah. And he's probably not. He
does have two things going for him, though. I think that I'm not putting down any other candidate, but I think by far Curtis is probably the best orator of anybody you mentioned.
He's great.
And all smart people. I think he's the best intellect in a lot of ways mm-hmm. too. Hearing him speak and the way he comes to issues mm-hmm. is pretty impressive.
Yeah, he on a debate stage, he's going to be the guy to beat. I mean, he will. If the other candidates don't come prepared, he will eat their lunch. I mean, he's just very good in front of people. He's very confident. He's
persuasive.
He's very persuasive,
mm-hmm.
very concise. He's got a good message. He stays calm and cool and relaxed, and it's disarming for people. So Curtis is and there's no pun intended. He's the dark horse of the race, right? He really is and I say no pun because he's an African American man, right? But he really is that dark horse where it is I don't think you should count him out. And I think some people in the establishment have kind of said, oh, he could never win.
Right.
And I'm kind of like, well, I don't know. I think, and he comes with baggage. He has the allegations of kind of, getting handsy with a lady at a bar. But I think it's a nothing burger. I think it was the left attacking him. I think it was the establishment going after him. And I think they're doing the same thing to Curtis that they're doing to Trump. And so the Trump base, which is very strong in Indiana,
right.
They're going to see Curtis as kind of that Trump-esque figure where they're only attacking you because you're fighting for me.
Right.
That's why they hate you, is because you're coming and defending my liberty. So he's got I think he's got a good chance. We'll see what happens. He's got to raise the money, but he's out there and he's crisscrossing the state.
Well, the allegations against him, first of all, the state rep who it came from was rather provocative, left-wing,
yeah.
And it was investigated by the several police and not Solicitor General, but
it was the ethics guy within the Holcomb administration.
On several things.
Keeps getting cleared, and the media doesn't like to cover that
just
part.
Talk about the scandal because that brings headlines.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you giving that heads up on that because I know you're out there working.
Yeah.
Your paths are crossing with the different candidates.
And I have to say, be remiss. There's one more candidate in the race
too.
Yes,
I want to bring her up.
Yes, yeah. So her name is Jamie Rittenauer.
Okay.
Yes, and Jamie's interesting because she, how I said, like, you can tell the fruit of the tree. Mm-hmm. Jamie loves the Lord. I mean, there's not a doubt in my mind that this lady's whole heart and mission in life is to honor Christ and to follow Christ, and she wants to do it in the political world. And she's got a business background, and she's very sweet. She's got a shepherd's heart, really, to steward those around her and to help those in need. And so she's got a solid little grassroots kind of team that she's building. But it's so hard to get on the ballot.
Yeah, address that for our audience. Explain how that works, because it's a little unique to the statewide office.
Yes.
And it's not something a lot of people think about.
Yeah. So there's always a gate that you've got to get through to even be considered a candidate for statewide offices. Now, in my case, for lieutenant governor, treasurer, attorney general, secretary of state, state auditor, or comptroller now, those have a filing fee charge. So right now it's about $13,000. I think it's a percentage of whatever that office makes. And so it's $13,000 what you have to pay just to get on the ballot at the convention. Well, in statewide races where it's not a convention, so U.S. Senate and then the gubernatorial race, you've got to get 500 signatures in each of the 9 congressional
And they have
districts.
to be verified voters, and that's the tough part.
Some people think, 500 signatures is that hard. No. Here's how it works. If I live in Hamilton County, you live in Hamilton County, they've got to send a team member from their team to go and get Hamilton County signatures. Once they feel like they've got enough signatures in the 5th district, because that's where we're at, there's 6 other counties in the 5th district. They've got to separate the Hamilton County signatures. Then they've got to take them to the county courthouse, have the clerk verify that you and I are both who we say we are and live where we're registered to vote. If we even filled out the form properly, they're counting on us that we're filling out the form with the right address and the right name, the right spelling. And then the county clerk then comes back and says, hey, these are the ones that are verified. These are the ones that are not. And then you have to send someone from your team back to go to the county courthouse to pick up the signatures. Then you got to take those signatures down to the Secretary of State's office, and then he has to verify that county clerk said you had enough signatures. Now, you have to do that in 92 different counties, all right? So it's not just as simple as going out and getting 500 signatures in a congressional district. You've got to have a massive team who can go and get those signatures.
Well, typically, a candidate will get several hundred more. Somebody's even twice as much.
They usually go for 1,000. They need 500, they go for 1,000.
Because they want,
they're going to throw out probably
40-50%.
That's right, they will. And then you get into congressional districts or counties that are very much Democrat controlled. Democrats are not going to be kind to you. You go to the county clerk's office in Marion County, they're not going to help a Republican gubernatorial candidate. They're going to look for any way someone doesn't dot their I and cross their T the right way. They're going to throw that signature out. So you got to be well over that threshold. So it's very hard to get on the ballot in Indiana. So Jamie, going back to Jamie Rittenauer, the Red Sea moment, okay, she really feels God has called her into this race, and I think she's right. I think God has called her into this race. But whether or not the Lord will open up the door for her to actually win is a whole nother story. And I told her, I said, I think your Red Sea moment will be if you can get on the ballot. If you get on the ballot, I think people are going to be like, "Who? Wow, where did this come from? How did this lady get on the ballot?" So that's really, if you want to find more information about any of these candidates and you want to help them right now, help them get signatures because they all need signatures, and they all.
Well, I would say this too. I've signed multiple candidates.
Yeah.
It's not committing you to vote for that person. I mean, I've even signed for both parties.
Yeah.
I just think people should be on the ballot if they want to run.
Competition is healthy.
So you're just signing your name, saying I'm a registered voter. I'd like to have him on the ballot. Doesn't mean you're going to vote for him. You might not.
Yeah, I think as lieutenant governor candidate, I have signed all of their ballots or their forms so far. I'm pretty sure I've signed all of them. If not, I will.
Yeah.
And because to your point, competition is good. Let more people
give the voters a choice.
Yeah. So great.
Well, that's very helpful. I appreciate you joining us and bring us kind of your perspective as you're out there campaigning and crossing paths with these different candidates. What types of things do you think will happen in the next few months that could propel one candidate over another? Is it just going to be who can really rally the grassroots, or could there be some other thing we don't expect? Could there be more people getting in?
Well, I think you're going to start to see more governor forums. You're going to
Okay.
start to see a little bit
TV ads,
more.
maybe?
Yeah, you're going to start to see some more, maybe quote unquote debates. Maybe I don't know if they will necessarily be debates, but certainly more forums. And as I know, there's one in Hamilton County that's coming up in a month and a half or 2 months. I think Hoosiers for Medical Liberty is putting it on. And so that's gonna, there could be huge gaffes that somebody, we look at Murdoch, when he was running for Senate, he was in a debate, he made a gaffe, and the media spun it, and it tanked his run for U.S. Senate. So anything can happen in the world of politics, and so you've got to be really sharp. You got to know what you know why you know it, and be able to articulate it well. And that'll be the challenge, the test for these candidates. Yeah, and so I think they just, if I was giving them advice and counsel, I would just say, get out, shake hands, listen to the voters, and then be ready to articulate your vision for the future. So I think, and some of them do that better than others. So we'll see. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be an interesting year with the presidential election.
Oh, wow.
U.S. Senate race, governor's race in
Yeah.
Indiana, all 100 House members, half the Indiana State Senate.
And let me hit on this. I'm glad you brought that up, Micah, because a lot of times people will ask me, how do I get involved? Well, we're also going to have precinct committeemen elections and delegate elections in the May primaries.
Yeah.
It's going to be a huge ballot. I mean, a huge ballot. And that's a really great way in Indiana to take a little bit of ownership over the political process. The precinct committeemen and the delegate roles are often overlooked, but vital to getting good party leadership elected, and then also making sure that there's good candidates that hit the ballot. Most of the time, I hear this from Christians and conservatives. They say, why am I always voting between the lesser of two evils? And I respond by saying, because you didn't get in the game until the fourth quarter.
Right.
If you would have started the recruiting process months earlier and then played the first, second, third quarter, you might actually have a better outcome right now. But you always jump in on the fourth quarter and then wonder why the game doesn't go your way. Well, getting in and recruiting and using that whole analogy, running for PC or for delegate, getting good constitutionally sound, conservative, faith and family people in those roles, it transforms everything from the ground up, exactly the way that it's designed to work. And then you'll have good party chairmen at your county level. You'll have good party chairmen at your state level. You'll have good candidates from the convention that will hit the general ballot in November because you had good delegates. So, and then you'll also have a good party platform. We vote on that every 4 years at the convention. And as a Republican, you'll say, this is what we believe. And that was a battle a few years ago in 2018. The state party leadership, the moderates in the party, tried to remove traditional marriage off of the Republican Party platform in Indiana. But because we had some pretty good conservative-minded delegates, we stopped it. And it now says, hey, in Indiana, we believe that marriage is between one man and one woman. Doesn't mean we hate somebody who's living the gay lifestyle. It just says we're not going to lower the gold standard to the lowest common denominator. We're going to say, hey, this is the standard. Everyone's welcome to be a part of the Republican Party.
It's the public policy optimum.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So that's where we're at. And if you want to get involved, that's a great way to do it.
I mean, we're 9 months away from the primary election. Great time for people to volunteer for any of these candidates. It's a great way to get involved in the process. Just help a candidate out. Go door to door for them and go to events with them, help them however they want.
And I hate to say it, I wish I didn't have to, but think about opening up your wallets and supporting good candidates too. Sure. The Lord showed me a kind of a metaphor of the body of Christ in this battle a few months ago, and it was a picture of a spear, and it was a spear being thrown into the battle, and the Lord just kind of hit me, and He said, everybody in my body, in my family, in the church, plays a role in this analogy. You fit somewhere in that picture. And he started to show me, he showed me the tip of the spear, which is really that's the killing part of the spear. That's what does the most damage to the enemy, is that tip of the spear. But the tip of the spear has to have a shaft. It has to be connected by a rope. It has to have the money that financed the spear being built. And it also has to have the hand that throws the spear into battle. And the Lord just kind of spoke to me, he said, everybody in the church is somewhere in that picture. I feel God has made me the tip of the spear. I go into that battle. I love hitting the enemy and hitting them with truth and saying, hey, this is what God says about things, and I don't back down. I love that. But I would be very ineffective if I didn't have the support network that shaft represents. The rope that holds the tip and the spear together is the prayer, the intercessors that are constantly praying and covering the people in the battle. Then you have the people who are willing to pay for that spear being built. And then you have the people who throw that spear in the battle. And I see that as the people who just know who to vote for, right? Who can get out and knock doors and help other people vote for them. You're throwing them in the battle. So somewhere in that picture, you exist. You just have to ask the Lord, well, Lord, where do you want me? Am I an intercessor? Am I an encouragement to somebody? Am I a support network person? Am I throwing that spear in the battle? Do I fund the spear? Or am I the tip of the spear?
Right.
I think guys like you and I are probably more the tip of the spear in a lot of ways. And you may be, you may have multiple roles in that. You're very, very good at this whole world of politics. But I think, if you're watching this or listening to this, ask the Lord, say, Lord, what's my giftings?
Right.
How have you wired me to really be a part of this battle? And He'll show you and then walk in that. So again, if you've got the means for funding that spear being built, don't hold it back because good candidates need that to be able to win. Campaigning is all campaigning is a marketing contest of who can be the most popular.
Right.
That's all it is. Which is why we get sometimes good people who win, or we get people winning elections that don't know anything about governing. Because a lot of times the good governing mindsets don't think popularity contests. They think right and wrong, good policy, but they're not really good campaigns.
Well, and there are times when the campaign's purpose is to proclaim the truth.
That's right, yeah.
And I remember when Alan Keyes ran against Barack Obama, knowing he wasn't going to win in Illinois, but he got to give a message out on life and faith and family, and did a phenomenal job of getting the word out, even though he got clobbered. But campaigns serve all sorts of purposes.
It's a great point. Sometimes people get overwhelmed about what they can do to save our republic, and I say, don't look at eating an elephant as the whole elephant. You got to take one bite at a time. And the very basic level of how God is going to use you to change the world around you is speaking truth. You have a sphere of influence. Everyone has a sphere of influence. It might be in your home, it might be at your work, it might be on a platform, a national platform, whatever it is. Speak truth in those spheres of influence and watch that truth come out of your mouth, go into the hearts of people around you, and then, like I said at the beginning of, I think, the earlier podcast, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And that's it right there.
It's a great way to end it. We're going to wrap this up. But Micah, thank you for joining us. I know you were at a golf outing today. And you were busy.
I have no socks on. I have a Titleist hat on. I was like, oh my goodness.
For a very good fundraiser.
It was a great cause, Convoy of Hope. But I was obviously
thank you, and
not prepared.
I appreciate all you do. And I hear you on the radio fairly regularly in WIBC, and I know you're out there campaigning as well. And thank you for your leadership of the church. Your church is about 5 minutes from my house. I have a lot of friends who go there.
Thank you.
And just appreciate Life Church and all you do.
Well, likewise, Micah. It's I love what you're doing with AFA, and just continue to put out the word, and you're helping people like me and people in my church even know what to stand, how to stand on the truth, because you give the practical means of knowing here's the bills to be watching, here's what candidates are saying. And boy, what you do is invaluable as your work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you joining us.
Yeah.
Hope you have a great weekend and enjoyed this video. And if you have any questions, let us know through our website or email. I'm Micah Clark, and have a great weekend.